Welcome again to this first webinar of this technical Sub-CoP, subcommittee of practice concerning non-food items, essential household items, another way to say NFI, emergency and temporary shelter technical specification. The main topic of this webinar will be discussing on winterization, challenges, and option. Also, example of emergency shelter option from Ethiopia. Just as a small reminder, we will answer your question after the three presentation. We would like if you can use the Q&A chat to add your question, and use the usual chat if you have any reflection, comments, relevant resource or links you would like to share with us. The committee will manage the chat, and we will select some question during the plenary discussion. Thank you to keep your microphone muted, and when you speak, we try really to give you the possibility to discuss if you would open your camera. And yeah, let's try to be concise to have a maximum time. So the agenda, I will make a short introduction about the technical COP and all the technical sub-group. We'll have an introduction about this committee, the committee of this the thematic subcommittee of practice. So presenting quickly the committee, and then we'll pass to the term of reference of this group, which is very similar to the other. Then we'll pass to three presentations, one from Ethiopia, one from Ukraine, and one from Palestine, specific on Gaza. And I would like to thank all the shelter cluster team who are taking the time to share some information about their response. Then we hope to have 30 minutes exchange, answering the question and having action with you, and then we'll close the webinar. I'm doing a short introduction about the technical COP. So as probably you know, we have 7 thematics, and the greener shelter is very linked to another committee of practice of the global shelter cluster, the environment committee of practice, and the good construction practice has merged with permanent durable shelter and housing, and is very linked to the recovery COP. And for this thematic, so the same, we had to merge because we didn't have enough volunteers to join the committee. So we have merged NFI emergency, temporary, and what is important, as you can see, there was previously a working group already on NFI practice. So it's really the continuation of this working group now, which has been integrated to the technical committee of practice. We have 35 people from various organizations, academia, who are managing the groups. Very quick, there is the link. We will share the links. I don't know if someone from my colleague can copy the link. That's the link of this working group. It has been deactivated in 2023, but you can find already a lot of documents concerning NFI. I'm passing over now to Mathieu for the presentation of the committee. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Pascal. So my name, yes, is Mathieu Gamba, and I'm the chair of this particular group. I have control of the presentation, yes. And here are the members. So we are 5, and I would like to take that opportunity to ask if any of you actually is interested to become a member and a co-chair of the group, because it would be very useful to have an additional person to join us. And if it's the case, please mention it in the chat or send an email maybe to Pascal, and we'll be very happy to welcome you. Then quickly, the background of the COP. So as Pascal mentioned it, we combine NFI and emergency temporary shelter. We are all volunteers, so it's open to everybody. Basically, everybody can join us, depending on your availability and your time, you participate and are involved in different meetings. We, if you want, you can actively participate in meetings, in webinar like this one, and decision making if you are a member, basically. We have all different experience and different knowledge, and everybody participate according to his availability and his competences, basically. Again, yeah, combination of the NFI EHI working group and the emergency and temporary shelter group, and the goal is to promote basically NFI ETS solutions together, share and gather all different stakeholders and shelter expertise. Well, this is the TOR and the objectives of the group. The main overall objective is to share good practices, information related to NFI and emergency temporary shelters, and support diverse shelter practitioners, basically. We meet more or less every month between all the co-chairs, so 5 of us. We also trying to organize different meetings with all the members every 3 or 4 months, like this webinar, for example, and there will be another one maybe in 3 months or so. We also meet with all the different technical COP to discuss planning and other important themes. I will propose very quickly a quick presentation of the survey results that some of you maybe responded to. It was just 9 questions, 38 people participated to the survey. It represented 5 continents and 32 different countries. So quickly, a profile of all the responders, basically. A big majority was in Europe with 42%, and then followed by Middle East and North Africa, Africa and Asia. Just 1% from South America and 1% from the Pacific Islands responded. So it's a good umbrella, I would say, despite that, obviously, people from Europe responded the most. We also asked what type of organization you work for. Most of you are from international organization, but also UN agencies, and a bit more than 18% are a member of the Red Cross. Can you please mute your mic? Thank you. So almost 8% are national NGOs, which is good. It's only 3%, but it would be great to, in the future, to have maybe a bit more national NGOs involved in other surveys. Current employment status. More or less the same national employee and expatriate, which is a good thing to have different representations, and also 28%, almost 29%, of people are not working currently. But you can see also on the top left, right, sorry, other type of profile, self-employed, consultant, or field officers. Okay, quickly, I'll go through the different questions, and this is the whole goal of the survey was to receive your feedback to understand what are your priorities and your needs in terms of understanding a bit better NFI or emergency shelters, and what challenges and issues you are facing on the ground. For us to respond to your needs via meetings, webinar, or sharing other kind of information. So the first question was about the stage of the program cycle. you are more interested in. So the first top priority was transition and exit strategies, followed by rapid assessment and forecasting of needs and quantifying required stocks. So this will help us to design future meetings and discussions. The number two was about your concern related to distribution modalities. So with more than 50% people responded designing and distributing distribution strategy for highly remote or inaccessible areas. So very difficult areas affected are one of your priority. Third question was about the area that requires the most clarity, always linked to NFI, but for standards and quality control. Environment and sustainability for procurement practice, and defining and identifying the minimum essential items were the two priorities identified. And also how to measure post-distribution impact and effectiveness. So again, this is things we can try to develop as a technical COP. And I think we will work on this in the future. Number four, about the most difficult program aspect of emergency and temporary shelter. So it's about the length-tenure HLP, basically, right issues. This is at 65% the priority for all the responders. Emergency shelter in urban setting, and I think we will probably discuss this with the presentation from Palestine. Site planning and coordination with land authorities is also a highly priority. The fifth question, where you need the most details related to NFI and EHI, is about repair and upgrade kits for non-displaced and host communities at 63%, and then followed by shelter kits and thermal comfort items. We will discuss thermal comfort items with Nikolai, who is going to present the UNHCR response in Ukraine. So this is going to be interesting. Number six, the cross-cutting issues related to NFI, ensuring the environmental sustainability. This is the top priority for you, followed by adapting the kits and shelter to the needs of the most vulnerable. Where is the flexibility between the standards and the reality on the ground, basically? To conclude, the last question, which humanitarian context you are the most interested in? So one of the options was a mix of all the different responses. So it was the priority for you. There is no specific context. It's roughly all of them, which I mean, I can understand because we all work in different contexts, responding to different disasters or conflicts, and all contexts are different. So that's it, I think. Yes, thank you. Over to you, Pascal.
Thank you, Mathieu. So thank you to all the participants. So we will try also to focus on the webinar on the topic was being selected. There is many points as we can see. We can discuss for NFI, but also just to remind there is already other committee of practice, like environmental committee of practice, or if we speak about cash, there is the cash and market and committee of practice. And if it's more about shelter and climate, it will be more the greener shelter. We'll pass over now to Mamouni. I would say also Mamouni is a part of the committee also of this group. So thank you, Mamouni is also part of the image assessment and other groups. So I'm passing over to you and to go to Ethiopia and to see what the shelter cluster. It's more focused on emergency shelter option, and the others will be more on NFI. Over to you, Mamouni.
Thank you, Pascal. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm recovering from a cough. My voice may sound a bit heavier than usual. I hope you can hear me clearly. I will try to speak slowly, but if you feel there is a need to speak up or slow a little bit, please let me know. That being said, so we'll be taking you through a short presentation from Ethiopia, basically on the neighborhood approach, a response approach that we have devised to support the displaced community in an area-based approach, which has been initially introduced by the International Organization for Migration, IOM, in 2022, targeting displaced communities that can be hosted within a hosting family. So it's a little bit of emergency. In a way, it contains a very simplified package, but it can also support the long run, the rebuilding, the transition to the hosting community once the emergency ceases. So a little bit context from the displacement. So the crisis in Ethiopia, be it the conflict or the disasters, floods, earthquake, and landslides have caused widespread displacements over the years. And when we see the settlement types, we have quite significant number of IDPs who are living within the host community. Basically, 48% of an estimated IDPs live within the host communities. And this has its own challenges and opportunities, of course. So some of the issues that we can highlight and that have been coming out from different assessments is that we have quite an overcrowded and a little bit tension in the shared shelter spaces, basically due to the unaffordability of renting or the hosting families also economically overstrained, and the limited capacity of the hosting as well as the hosted IDPs to afford services within the affected neighborhood. So it also increases to the risks of eviction if the families cannot afford either to pay the rents or can match anything that is required within the household. It increases the risks of eviction, especially for those who are quite vulnerable. So the living conditions, IDPs stay with a hosting family or unfinished building within the displacement affected communities or the damaged shelters, even within vacant places within hosting arrangements. When we see the basic objectives of the neighborhood approach, like I said initially, the main idea is that to have the IDPs within the host community with an increased social cohesion. In a way, the area-based census and needs of the affected communities are considered. So basically, it initially supports the immediate shelter needs of the affected community, targeting the IDPs, while in the long run, once the IDPs are returned or have transitioned to other settlement types, the hosting family will take over the houses and will benefit from it. And the other side is that it increases the social cohesion within the hosting as well as the hosted families, as the IDPs will not totally depend on the hosting families. It also reduces the challenges regarding to relocation. Oh, we lost the slide, Pascal.
Yeah, sorry, there was a technical problem.
No problem. Okay. So it will reduce the, while Pascal displays it, it will reduce the additional strains as well as challenges to relocate the IDPs from wherever they are settled. Like, for example, if we construct emergency shelters in other locations, there is a need to relocate the IDPs to those newly constructed shelters, as well as it requires additional resources to facilitate this relocation. So the IDPs will remain within hosting families. It also contributes to the protection, safety, and dignity of the affected communities.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Yeah, my connection is a bit slow. Yeah, I got the next slide now. So the key considerations while we introduce the neighborhood approach is that it should be a community and area-based focus, meaning the community from the IDPs as well as from the host should be able to participate in every stage of the project to ensure sustainability of the activities once the implementation is complete, like the follow-up, the maintenance, and the sustainability related should be owned by the community or the local authorities. And when we say it is an area-based approach, it focuses a localized solution within a defined geographic area. Sorry, if you can meet colleagues.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I have already muted. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, thank you. So the other one is the HLP considerations should be given due attention because we are using the houses of hosting family. There should be a secure tenure, which is critical to any shelter responses to avoid any risks of illegal documentation, eviction, or any turnover while the activities has been implemented at later stage. The other is the key consideration is the response needs to be tailored. Basically, we have incorporated intersectoral coordination whenever feasible, and mainly there should be a wash component wherever we are implementing. Basically, the latrines, water supply, and anything related to the hygiene should be there because it needs another investment if we construct the shelters or support the families without those services. And it has a mixed modality, in kind plus cash, where the cash supports the household needs to support paying the masons as well as facilitating any local sourced procurements related to the repairing, the renovation, or expansion within the houses. The in-kind materials are basically procured within the local supplies to avoid any delays, as well as significant attention has been provided to mitigate any environmental risks wherever we harvest the eucalyptus poles from the nearby location. So basically, the suppliers are legally recognized and that have the capacity to mitigate any risks related to the environment. Other than this, the kit, the neighborhood approach, the modality has a standardized bill of quantity tailored to specific houses based on the needs of the houses. The response will be different from house to house, depending on the size, depending on the number of households, and depending on the need to do repair, rehabilitation, or renovation within a single household. So the other is the implementation stage. So we have two stages. One is the planning, the selection, the preparation stage, and the other is the monitoring and the delivery. So in the planning stage, so we have prepared this guideline for the neighborhood approach. Like I said, it was initially devised and introduced by IOM, and the cluster has took the initiative to make it a standardized document so that other partners can apply it locally throughout the country. And one of the key consideration in this planning as well as selection steps is that there should be robust coordination between the cluster, the partners, the stakeholders, and the community. And a thorough assessment should be conducted to identify the needs within the households who are hosting the IDPs, as well as identify the hosting identification also. There is an intention survey to understand what are the intentions of the IDPs, whether they are willing to be hosted in that household, and whether the hosting families are also willing to host IDPs if this support is provided. So this, including the beneficiary selection related to age and disability inclusion, together with HLP due diligence, is implemented at the planning and selection stage. So in the implementation stage on the delivery and the monitoring, so like I said, we have a standardized BAQ with a minimum threshold for every scope. For expansion, for renovation, and for rehabilitation, we have different BAQs, which should be tailored with a minimum sphere standard to every house, and understanding the need and the gap within the household would support to an exclusive household level bill of quantities at the implementation stage. So there should be a tenancy agreement for a minimum of 18 months, where we have understood from the hosting as well as from the IDPs to be hosted, a minimum 18 months were recommended, so that they have at least whether they can return within this period, or otherwise if they are to extend beyond the 18 months, there should be an agreement between the hosting as well as the hosted families. But otherwise, the tenancy agreement has to be signed with a minimum 18 months period. Then the construction supervision as well as the distribution has to be phase by phase. The materials are not distributed at a single time to avoid any risks of aid diversion or tempting priorities for the affected communities. Then the technical supervision from the partners will be there to support the masons and the local skill laborers of the community to make sure that the rehabilitation, renovation, or expansion is based on the minimum standards for shelter construction. So anything related to the monitoring as well as the relocation, if there is anything to do with the relocation, for example, from the nearby location, or if we are talking households from the collective center, would happen with the post-distribution monitoring as well as safety and risk mitigation measures, which will be also coordinated with CCCM actors to support on the relocation initiatives. So what do we learn from this project? Basically, when it was piloted in 2022 in Mabala, and when it has been scaled up to various locations, in 2024 it was implemented in Adigrat with greater emphasis on the standard BAQ as well as inclusion of sectors and HLP due diligence measures, improving the coordination with the local authorities as well as actors that are involved in HLP, basically the local justice as well as partners from the protection side have also been contributing to the HLP due diligence measures. The environmental screening for sourcing local materials was also there. And as a challenge is that there have been some inflation, especially the currency changes has been significantly increased from 2022 to 2024 and now, more or less a 50 to 60% increment in exchange. And the market fluctuation prices as well as the hosting family fatigue has been quite a challenge, but overall, as a result, we have seen stronger integration, basically from the local authority side as well as from families who wish to host IDPs. They show quite big acceptance to do this hosting and bring in the affected displaced population to the household. So as a conclusion and a way forward that we can take from this lesson is that there have been contribution from the neighborhood approach in terms of bringing effective social coexistence together, and increased hosting arrangement and risks related to eviction was reduced in areas where the neighborhood approach was implemented, as well as the flexibility of the project, especially it constitutes the cash as well as in-kind materials, supports the families to procure materials that are not within their household or beyond their capacity when matching additional materials. The early verification on HLP, there have been several due diligence steps to make sure we have a secure tenor, has improved to reduction on pressure on local resources as well as any eviction related issues. The continuous engagement of the host as well as the hosted IDPs have increased to social coexistence within the communities. As the next step, the cluster took the initiative to standardize the guideline and then make sure we have a streamlined implementation throughout the country, at least to have scaling the approach to additional locations where we have spontaneous settlements here and there. And then we intend to enhance the integration with livelihoods as well as the wash and protection sectors, at least with the livelihood. When the 18 months is over, we want to have a mechanism where the hosted IDPs can transition towards a little bit transition or sustainable measure. And we intend to also institutionalize the model by providing capacity building to the local actors, especially the local authorities, municipalities, and partners involved in any of the local supporters. So as a resource, like I mentioned, the cluster has developed a tenant.
Sorry, Mamoune.
Yes,
we can pass. Yeah, if we can pass, because so we can see the resource, and if you don't mind to conclude, because we still have two other.
That's
Thank
okay.
you very much.
It's okay. It's okay, Pascal. You can proceed. No problem.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Mamoune. In any case, we will publish all the presentation and we will answer after the question. We will pass now to Ukraine, so I'm hand over to Mikola from the Shelter Cluster in Ukraine. Over to you. You want to take the control, Mikola?
Yes, I will. Greetings from Ukraine. Pascal, dear colleagues. I'm glad to see all of you. And before I start my presentation, which goes like thermal comfort is a necessity and not a privilege, I would like to congratulate all of you with International Project Management Day. In my opinion, everyone's life is a project. My project today is to be here, and my purpose today is to provide you with a snapshot of winter response in Ukraine, and I will begin with the overview of energy situations in Ukraine. In these challenging circumstances we have, the country is at war, and then I will continue with understanding, provide you with understanding of the winter-related winter NFI event-related activities of the shelter cluster of Ukraine. I will proceed with some specific calculation methods for NFI. And finally, I will provide you with some interesting tools we and our partners use daily in our daily work. And I hope some of them will be a benchmark for you. And let's move to the first part. And actually, the energy situation in Ukraine is very difficult, and there is a significant risk of the situation worsening. And it will be correct to say that the vast majority of the power generation facilities are targeted by the Russian Federation. At the same time, around 50% of the residential buildings in Ukraine use a centralized district heating. The heating system, the existence and efficiency of which depend on the functioning of combined heat and the power plants. And for instance, 95% of Kyiv citizens, it's 3 million, approximately, rely on the centralized district heating. And there are numerous of settlements with the such situation in Ukraine, actually. And in recent years, Ukrainians have experienced problems with lack of electricity and water supply. And actually, right now, there is one more risk. It's losing the heating. Moving on to the next slide, I would like to provide you with the results of recent multi-sector needs assessment conducted by REACH. And actually, according to this assessment, the 18% of the responders marked that the missing shelter NFI is one of the primary needs in Ukraine in 2025. Actually, the focus this year, the focus of humanitarian sector is on the on the eastern crescent of the Ukraine. It's you see on the right side of the map. It's 9 regions, and which hosted a lot of IDPs and a lot of evacuees. Moving on to the NFIs itself, I would like to start from presenting you the 2 main guidelines we created this year. It's lessons learned, winterization lessons learned, and winterization recommendations. Maybe on the last one of the last slides, there is all the links to these documents. Thank you, Pascal. Thank you so much for adding it to the chat. And actually, this year we adopted a different approach compared to the previous year. We asked the partners within the technical working group on winterization to help us of creating the lessons learned. And actually, there was 20 organizations, humanitarian organizations, agencies, clusters, and other technical working groups, including cash working group. The SOP winterization recommendations itself contains 6 shelter cluster activities and 2 CCCM cluster activities, because currently we are in the process of transitioning the CCM cluster activities to the shelter cluster. And moving to the next slide, of course, it's the first, maybe the main NFI activity in our list. It's NFIs for winter. Currently, we have the 8 items here, and this year, within the TWIG technical working group, we added 2 more items, like this 7 and 6. It's a power bank and battery-powered flashlight. Of course, it's because of this energy situation we have. And actually, the cluster recommends to all the partners to provide their own needs assessment to identify the particular list of items needed for each household. And the same situation is with the winter clothing, which is the next shelter cluster Ukraine activity. And actually, here I didn't find like a big difference between the contacts, but the main update this year, it's like pricing update depends on the inflation rate, and and we are added based on the PDM results. We added an option for the older persons. It's like Velcro shoes types. Moving on to the next slide, it's a winter heating appliances, and we this year, based on this also energy situation, there is an increased need of such items, and the shelter cluster list contains 3 types. It's a solid fuel stoves, we call it burjuika. It's similar to a potbelly stove, and also the electric heaters and the gas heaters. And those people.
Thank you very much.
Please mute yourself. Oh, thank you. And the Actually, we met this year. We met a new problem and new challenge for the whole of Ukraine. It's the heating of the multi-story buildings because of this huge risk of losing the or like full cut-off of the centralized district heating, natural gas, and electricity. Maybe the only option for the multi-story building is to use the solid fuel or gas heaters. And actually there is strict regulations in Ukrainian law, in Ukrainian norms, construction norms for using such items in multi-story buildings. But in the wartime, there is like we can neglect with these restrictions, and actually the more and more people going to the countryside for to those who have like additional dwelling which use the solid fuel type heaters like traditional stuffs. Of course, this kind of solid fuel heaters needed a chimney, and actually the cost of such accessory, it's pretty high because of also the strict regulations, but not only the regulations. It's like a good only approach is using stainless steel for such accessory. And like the list of the items you can see on your screen. The firewood itself, the solid fuel itself, actually this year we used the new approach for calculating the solid fuel for the households. It's based on the minimum heat amount for one household, and based on the calorific value of particular solid fuel. And actually you can see on the screen like for an examples of solid fuel calculated and the amount of solid fuel calculated in cubic meters and then converted to the stacked cubic meters, or calculated in tons for briquettes, pellets, and coal. Actually, it's for these four types. It's the main using types of solid fuel in Ukraine. A few words about the calculation. For calculation of the firewood amount, it includes three steps. First, you need to know the tree species and moisture content, which can be measured using the moisture meters on site, on the field. Then we provided in our winterization recommendations the tables with the ready-to-use calorific value for firewood for each types of tree species. Then you just divide the recommended amount of heat by the particular calorific value and received the solid content, like a solid measure of the firewood you needed. And the last step is just only convert this amount into the form of which using by when suppliers provide the firewood, and it means like stack cubic meters. For this actually step, you just need to use the conversion factors provided in the FAO, for example, in the FAO fuel wood handbook. The first tool I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation is actually the dashboard created based on the data sets of the post-distribution monitoring field questionnaires. The cluster created this year the unified questionnaire form, and asked the partners to use it during their post-distribution monitoring stages. And we received the data sets from around 20 organizations. And actually, this data help us to decide on on the amount, on the sum of the unified transfer value amount is cash modality for the solid fuel this year. And we are looking forward to seeing the results of our approach. Also, this dashboard helped us to understand the preferences of the beneficiaries. Actually, you can see this two pie diagrams in the right side, right upper side of the slide. It shows they show that the commonly used solid fuel for the household in Ukraine, it's like firewood, but the partners, but as a result of distribution of last winter season distribution, it's the majority of cases received the briquettes. And actually we have the answer why we will have such kind of picture. And the main reason it's like the availability of certificates for the briquettes. It's the parameters, technical parameters of the briquettes. We mean like these briquettes made from wood or sunflower, and also the coal, and but in the majority cases is also the firewood-based briquettes. And actually the high density and the low moisture content of the briquettes based on their production manufacture process, it's that's why the partners likes to provide such kind of solid fuel. And also the other main reason, it's simple, more convenient used for the older persons, because the briquettes have the lightweight, and for older persons and other people with limited mobility, it's a very good type of solid fuel compared to the firewood, for example. I will not stop here. Maybe you have more questions during the QA session on the dashboard, because actually there's a lot more findings based on such instrument. Moving on to the next slide, the next very interesting tool used by shelter cluster partners today in Ukraine, it's the platform coordination and the duplication platform created by the UNHCR in collaboration with the shelter cluster of Ukraine. And compared to other solutions, similar solutions, this platform allows partners to deduplicate based the main like the basement of the approach is the duplication by the tax IDs of the household, and also the tax IDs of all adults in the family. And this compared to other solutions, this system allows partners to deduplicate different modalities of assistance, like in-kind, voucher, or cash modality. It allows to deduplicate different related activities, such as distribution of solid fuel or the winter cash for utilities from the one cluster objective. And moreover, it allows the partners to deduplicate the activities from the different cluster objectives, such as standard NFI activities with winter NFI activities. And actually, we have more than 600 users of this platform, which is more than 100 organizations. And since June, this platform helped to provide assistance to more than 200,000 of households. It's different modalities for two activities. Just mentioned only two activities. The platform contains all the activities of shelter cluster have. These two activities is solid fuel distribution and the cash for utilities. And just a few slides from the this platform. It has two options, like manual deduplication and as you can see on the screen, based on the tax IDs, and the bulk upload based on the Excel spreadsheets. And of course, the most important thing here is that this platform can be rolled out in other contexts. And moving on to the last instrument for today, last tool for today, the shelter cluster together with UNHCR this year created and launched in summer, launched two free online courses for the beneficiaries. It's a winter preparation and an energy conservation course. As you can see on the screen, the short explanation of modules of the course. Actually, it's available only in Ukrainian with Ukrainian subtitles. But as I said, it's the main audience of this course is the beneficiaries. But we saw a lot, which is very good, a lot of students from the humanitarian organizations, these Ukrainian speaking colleagues, who left also a very good positive marks on the positive comments on our course. And of course, one more slide from the course. The course based on the video lectures, and actually it took us our team of up to 10 people. It took us 5 months to create 2 courses. The course is based on the private organization platform. It's Prometheus. It's very popular here in Ukraine. And actually, video currently on the screen, there is a few slides of the rapid thermal kit, the kit created by the UNHCR in Ukraine. And here is a list and like the result of installation of the screen made from the foiled material behind the electric heater in one of the Ukrainian household. Actually, one more interesting thing here, these courses contains a few videos, like I call it professional videos, made on the field, and it's related to the, for this actually course, it's a video on the Windows replacement, like this old energy inefficient Windows to new energy efficient. And the one more video, it's a thermal installation of attic in detached house. And actually, I think it's the last slide. Thermal comfort for us, it's not just about the temperature. We have some regulations in Ukraine which tell us that in particular building, the particular zone, like living room, the temperature should be like more than 20 degrees of Celsius. But for us, and we are using all these courses and instruments and activities and IEC materials to providing the beneficiaries of understanding that the proper ventilation of the house while you're using the heaters like solid fuel heater or gas heater is vital to mitigate the health risks in your house. Also, the insulation of the house will provide you with the less bill on the utilities. The insulation of the house will provide you with less consumption, like less solid fuel consumption during the winter. And we and of course, first of all, our partners are working every day to transform tactical actions into dignity and safety for our beneficiaries. That's actually that's it from my side. Here are like all the links to the documents and tools I presented. And thank you so much for listening to me. And thank you, Global Shelter Cluster, for having me. And see you on the Q&A session, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mikola. I think there was someone asking a question. No. Okay. We'll pass the question after, just to pass to the next presentation. And so please don't hesitate. I have added the link from the presentation on the chat also. So thank you very much. And I think it's very interesting. And when we speak about non-food items, okay, there is many non-food items, and now winter is coming in Ukraine, also in Palestine. And so we need also to adapt our response to support the affected population. I'm passing over now to Gian from the shelter cluster from NRC, and also with our colleague Adil Marva, also co-technical coordinator on the side of IOM. So over to you. I don't know who is starting. Over to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You want to take the control? Or you want to take the control? Yeah.
Thank you. I'll click on it now. Hi, everyone. Hello from Jordan. I'm Jihan Salim with Marwa here from IOM. We are the technical coordinators, including one person from CRS, Neha, who is joining the session. As you can tell, the situation in Gaza or all of Palestine is really complex right now. October 10th, we entered in the official ceasefire, which should improve the situation in Gaza, but to be honest, the situation has been the same since the start. So we've been really busy trying to get access to materials, try to provide tents, NFI. So I'll go start in the presentation to talk about the post-ceasefire context and the technical updates. So we have on the agenda, just to give an overview of the shelter and essential household item to displaced population, prioritizing the underdeserved and overcrowded sites. We'll talk about the limitation and challenges, the winterization needs, the type of assistance that we're providing based on these limitation and challenges, and talking about the pipeline distribution, and lastly, our next steps or priorities for right now, the ceasefire. To give an overview of Gaza's shelter condition, Gaza's a small area. To give you a picture, it's 41 kilometers by 12 kilometers or less. But this area has been shrunk since the war. It's been 2 years since the active war and displacement of the population. Right now, 58% of it is not under, let's say, under the Palestinians. They're squeezed by the sea, and this is considered a humanitarian zone. Before the war, the density of Gaza was already at a high rate. And considering the situation now where everyone is squeezed in one area by the sea, it's really complicating the situation for the population, the placement of tents, also the high rate of displacement of movement due to the change of humanitarian and military action. People need to move with their NFI or tents, which deteriorate the situation of their items. And at the top of it, it's lack of entry of items. So the situation is really bad. And from my experience working in different countries, it's, being in Iraq, Syria, where it's under sanctions and post-conflict situation, even how I was in Ukraine, Gaza is a really unique context that it's very limiting with the options we give the population or provide services. Recently, a site management group did a survey, and based on the priority of people, almost 80% said shelter and housing is a priority, while the second priority is household items. So the need is very high, and since March 2025, there hasn't been many trucks entering with shelter material. In August, the roads was open, but still it was limited number of entry. As I mentioned, it's a prograded emergency response. It's still ongoing. Displacement is ongoing. There's a large housing infrastructure damage. There's a minimal stock. This was already before the war, the housing crisis. So the war deteriorated it even more. And it's been observed by partners and people on the ground that people are sleeping in open air, sleeping on the street. And considering winter has started, we're already in November, the situation is considered really a priority. I'll show an example. This is a map of Gaza City. We took it as an example because it's the most high density area with highest destruction between the 4 areas in Gaza Strip. 83% of structure is damaged. If you look at the numbers, this is a map from UNHCR from September 2025. 41,000 completely damaged infrastructure is just in that one area. This has been done by UNHCR every few months, so you can see the comparison over the months has increased and worsening over time. The needs overview, based on the IOM calculations we've recently done also for the flash appeal, is 1.4 people are in need of shelter and NFI items. This is just to give an overview of the numbers we have right now. So to move on to the limitation and challenges, because this would help understand why we have the solutions we have right now in Gaza for shelter NFI. It's all the roads completely damaged. There hasn't been any improvement since the war. With the small little efforts that's possible, some agencies are working on improving it. So most of the neighborhood are inaccessible, and there is unexploded ordnance, which makes it high risk to even try to deliver in these inaccessible areas. So it makes it a very high risk area to work. There's repeated displacement, even now with the post-ceasefire since October 10th. People are trying to return to their homes, not finding it, moving back, moving their items. The site management data states around 650,000 people have moved since October 10th. So you can imagine the amount of movement that's happening in this small area right now, where people are trying to find a space, safe and even space to place their tents or temporary shelters or makeshift. On top of that, there's also the HLP issues that really complicates targeting and long-term term solutions. Gaza is mainly high-rise buildings with minimum 2 to 3, 4 floors. So if the building is completely destroyed, you have several owners in that specific plot, which makes it complicated. There's also limited capacity in assessing housing and unit damage units, and also limited space for a warehouse. So if any items are delivered, it's where do you place them, and how do you distribute it after, especially in this inaccessible areas. And lastly, the entry of shelter items, it's controlled and monitored, and even the items on the list that's approved sometimes are denied at the border. Some items are considered dual-use items, which is required according to the Israeli regulations. This means the items can be used for civilians at the same time can be used for military. So this is how it limited the choices really for shelter solutions at this time. Tents is on the approved list, but we're trying to right now working on increasing repair items like getting cement, concrete to do basic repairs, but this is still in the process. This pipeline distributed NFI shelter items is just to give you an overview of the entry of trucks. The red shows the number of trucks entered in those days, but this is not only shelter items. This includes all sectors like food, wash, all the sectors that falls under cluster coordination. And it's been a very small number. And the green line is the agreed ceasefire truck number, daily entry number, which should be around 500, but it's also for all sectors. And we're not even now with the ceasefire, this amount of trucks is not entering. And what we calculated for only shelter NFI, it should be 1,000 trucks daily that needs to be entered to meet the current needs of the population for just the emergency phase, which we're not able to cover right now because of deteriorating situations. Next slide is this is an internal, let's say, monitoring system we created for the shelter and NFI. So as you might know, we have partners under shelter cluster in Gaza, around 30 partners who are active. But at the same time, we have different committees that are delivering shelter NFI items that don't fall under the cluster. So they have their own mechanism of delivery and own coordination logistics through Egypt. So we try to track this number, and we have a direct communication with them because we want to show the overview that tents are entering. They're not up to shelter cluster standard, but these materials are still entering. Just to, let's say, make the message clear, because there's always communication that tents are entering, but they're not really, let's say, winterization tents. They're summer tents. But it's hard to track how many have been distributed. So the number here shows the tents entered, tent distributed based on shelter cluster partners, and there's a tents intercepted. So intercepted is also one of their challenges, because due to high needs in Gaza, trucks are being looted on the way as soon as they enter, so there's no tracking of them, and usually these goes in the market for resale. This is just to show the current number of, let's say, tents entering. It still doesn't meet the needs that we need. I'll pass it on to Marwa so we can speak more on winterization, since now we're in winter, and what are the needs based on the limitation challenges we have.
Thanks a lot, Jihan. With all these limitations, this winter is going to be very hard on Gaza, especially with the very congested areas. So there are very limited options available. One of them is like, one of these options for sheltering is like sealing of partial damaged houses, or substandard makeshift shelters, or for the non-humanitarian tents that my friend here, Jihan, was mentioning, that is coming, are not entering Gaza through the humanitarian partners, and then the deteriorated tents. Then some people have started to raise their shelters at the coastal area. These people living at the coastal area are the most vulnerable people for the winter. Unfortunately, they cannot have another option for relocation because the area is very congested in Gaza. So they will use sandbags, for example, to raise their shelters, to at least try to mitigate these risks to their shelters. Then one thing that is also is limited, but it's an option also because of the entry of the items, is bedding sets and winter clothing. Because of the limited entry, some partners started to do it through voucher. If the market is allowing that, of course, this needs a lot of market assessment, coordination on that. But this is another option. Then distribution of solar lights, especially for long nights in the winter. Unfortunately, there are no heating appliances were allowed since the war started in Gaza. People have been doing some coping mechanism things by burning wood. It's just for your information, wood is very expensive and not available always, and it's per location availability. And then the people were burning their clothes, they were burning trash. That caused a lot of diseases that came up from many reports. Then in coordination with the site management, some flooding risks are being mitigated through distribution of toolkits and ISC material. Here at the left, you can see these resources on winterization guidance from our cluster, tip sheets on how tip sheet like at site level that's been developed with the site managed cluster developed it. And then here you can see an ISC material on rain and flooding issues. And then here, we do have a transitional shelter assistance technical working group for shelter cluster Palestine. That is the key objective of this technical working group, to provide relevant and timely and diverse technical guidance to the partners on ground. And this will draw the pathway to recovery, considering the variation in land ownership, urban density in Gaza especially, the degree of damage, the household evolving needs. So this is led by CRS and the Shelter Cluster Palestine. There were sub-tweaks under this one. For example, the local coping mechanism with this limited entry of items, the people of Gaza also being through multiple wars. This is not the only one. They were some coping mechanism, and then we had some partners on ground. They were documenting this coping mechanism, and we have came up with a community-based approach for makeshift shelters and one for partially damaged buildings, and also adaptation for persons with limited mobility. And then we also, because the entry is also limited, we had to come up as Shelter Cluster with a targeting and prioritization guidance note for the partners on ground at site level, at shelter level. We had to guide everyone because this is commodity of shelter is very expensive in Gaza. Then under this technical working group, we do have damage assessment ongoing for minor and medium for the meanwhile. And then we do also have some shift to cash intervention and market monitoring, because we see ceasefire, some items are entering, and especially on, when we mention cash, especially on the side of the commercial trucks. Then we are anticipating these phases for Gaza. For example, the phase 1, which is the emergency phase, which we are now, is like, it's going to, according to our anticipation, 3 to 4 months ahead. And under this phase, we are mostly focusing on distribution of tents, tarpaulin packages, sealing of kit, emergency shelter kits, which are the timber framings. And then some SOK toolkits, if possible. Toolkits are not always allowed to go inside. It's a dual use item, but hopefully. Then we do have also the damage assessment under this phase. But we are also taking in consideration all the cross-cutting issues on HLP, protection, and we are coordinating with the rest of the clusters. For example, WASH, site management clusters, just for everyone to know. We are calling it site management cluster, which is basically the CCCM, because in this cluster it's very political. That's why we shifted the names in this context. So then we do also deal with debris management and debris management working group. But the most important thing has been, like, since there was a war and then there was no ceasefire, the shelter cluster was mainly focusing on advocacy, because there was no entry of items. There was a very limited shelter response on ground. Basically, people were doing coping mechanism, but then the advocacy, something was very, at this cluster level, was something very, like, important for us to do. And also, like, we are doing now more advocacy and access of items, just like Jihan mentioned, for example, for this team and some things, and maybe for a transitional response phase. Then for example, I'm showing you one example for this is the emergency shelter kit. This you can see that CRS piloted this approach. These are very expensive items in Gaza. I mean, these are dual use items, but CRS managed to do the procurement inside Gaza for a very small amount. Very few partners were able to enter these items to Gaza, but this can be led through contractor or household level or through cash for work. But the most important thing, we have anecdotal feedback and the findings from on ground. People prefer these ESK over tents because they provide more flexibility, if you can see, because you can change the design according to the family size, the family preference, and then it provides more structural stability, and then the height of the shelter is better than the tent. This is another one. This is the sealing of sealing of kit that can be used to seal off damaged buildings. This is unfortunately we have been doing this since the response started, since the war started. But you can see some examples for non-structural damage. It has been used. There are a lot of we have a good ISC material developed for the partners and for the beneficiary on ground on how to seal their buildings. Yes, please. Yeah, this is another example of sealing off and ESK. And then phase 2 is, we are anticipating this to be from 4 to 6 months onward. So the phase 1 will continue in here. The same response I explained will continue here, but we will move to more improved emergency shelter kit. We will try, inshallah, if the entry of items allow us to add plywood and OSB instead of the tarpaulin. Then we will try to move to some cash approaches if the market allows. Damage assessment for the repairs will continue. Then the start of assessment for low-risk buildings in coordination with the mine action group. Repair subject to access and market conditions, just to remind you, and transitional shelter pilot programs, we will try to do as much as possible. We have some initiatives on piloting, some initiatives already on this one. We have all these resources. Pascal will put it in the chat for you. Thank you. And then we do have the phase 3. Of course, we are anticipating phase 2 and phase 1 because this is a protracted emergency. It will continue, but this will be like anticipated from 5 to 6 months. Then we were thinking about like durable non-structural repairs of minor and medium damaged buildings. So if items is available and entry is okay, then the transitional shelter with timber, steel, etc., to develop something for the response at that time. Then further coordination with development actors. So, for example, with this RDNA, the rapid damage need assessment, and then with this Gaza recovery strategy group, we will try to see how also to support in that. We do have a lot of resources in this, like the humanitarian shelter repairs we have developed, and then we develop transitional shelter solutions for Gaza. It's not only one solution; it's multiple solutions. And then key consideration for prefabricated shelters. Then we do have a very strong position on prefabricated shelters to be entered to Gaza because this is very sensitive in this response. And then our position on rental assistance as shelter cluster. Here you can see when I see material on visual inspections of the damage in the beneficiaries will use it in their buildings on how to visually inspect it before they completely leave in these buildings. It also talks about some sealing of some damages. And then here we have then an IC material on how to install an emergency shelter kit. Currently this is under revision and will be developed further. So ongoing technical priorities is the last slide. We do market monitoring with some partners, with reaching out to partners who are interested to participate in this in coordination with the cash working group. And then we are developing this damage assessment tool. Then streamlining and scaling up of ESK packages, the emergency shelter kit, to see how to move forward with this. Then we do also monitoring technical standards of materials entering Gaza and regularly updating on needs and the gaps, especially the items that are not coming under the humanitarian road, like humanitarian partners. Then winterization assistance, prioritizing vulnerable household, and then of course the advocacy for the dual-use materials to move at least from this emergency to the second phase if possible. Then technical strategy for transitional shelter phase. Thanks. That's all from my side. Shukran.
Thank you very much, Marwa and Jian, for this very interesting information. We can pass just to the plenary. Mathieu, did you have check maybe some question? Or if someone also can, you can put up your hand to ask any question to the presenter.
Yes, definitely. Go ahead and post your question on the Q&A chat. Nicola asked a question to Mamoune, but I think he already responded on the chat. I don't see. Well, I see your questions to Jian and Marwa. Maybe we could start with this. I mean, if anybody wants to take this opportunity to ask a question to the presenters, that would be welcome. Please turn on your video if you can.
Okay, there's a question about the COP, but we can answer after, huh?
Yeah, and I think we should answer that from Carolina, I think. Yeah. I think we will, but let's ask questions first to Marwa and Jian, because they just finished their presentation. Maybe we can start, and we don't have so much time anyway. So maybe go ahead, Pascal. Then.
No, it's okay. Thank you for all the questions. Oh, wait, there is a Caroline question. Over to you.
Yes, hello, and thank you very much for the presentations. I have a question, actually, both for all presenters, maybe a bit more for the Gaza team. I was wondering, in a context of scarcity, where there are limited items coming in, how have you gone about in a technical working group to define NFI kits, the package, the content? Have you defined several packages? Like I know in certain countries we've defined like this is the minimum package of an NFI kit. This is a larger NFI kit for people who are in a different situation. I was wondering if you have had discussions around different types of NFI kits and how you've gone about defining them and agreeing them. Thanks. Over.
Thanks a lot, Carolina. If I maybe answer with an example, for example, the ESK, the emergency shelter kit that we were explaining. So we have came up with few options. One of them we have came up is only the framing kit. Then one of them is like the framing kit with toolkits and the sealing off kit. Now we are revising for more extensive, just because of we in case there is entry of items, then we can push for it. Then we can have plan B, then the best option for the people in Gaza. But seriously, so far we have been stick to the bare minimum entry of items. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, maybe just a very quick follow-up. These are for emergency shelter kit, but what about non-food essential household items like kitchen sets and cleaning kits and jerry cans and sleeping mats and what you use within the house, not necessarily the shelter emergency shelter kit, but the NFI, the household items.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Tamam. Same thing for the. So, for example, for the kitchen set, it was just the same. It was we call it kitchen set A, kitchen set B. It has the minimum items for a household for 6 members. It's also like we had issues for entry. Sometimes it was enter, sometimes it was not. But let me give you one example on the bedding set. Some bedding set was very difficult to enter because they are bulk items. When they were entering Gaza, they were not entering as one kit because sometimes the palletization is different. You have the mattresses, then the blankets. Sometimes some of them were looted. Organization didn't have space on the ground to make them one kit, so we were like giving individual items, and then we didn't have any other choice. Like, any item arrived, immediately we were distributing because we could not keep them in the warehouse because of a lot of risks related to it. So that's basically the thing is. Kit, some items kitting was not possible. Some items, yeah, if they are small, but entry always has been issue. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to follow up with what Caroline was asking with regards to heating system. I think you mentioned it, and you said it was not allowed to import basically heating system. But I guess now that the winter is coming and already there probably. What's the plan? Because I guess it will be a priority for all the families affected. So what's the plan for heating houses or shelters in the next few months?
What are the options? Yeah.
Yeah. So the options are like lessons learned from last winter, which this winter is worse than that. That was clothing and bedding set was the best coping mechanism for the people in Gaza. Otherwise, there was not a lot of other options. And then IC materials we have provided as shelter cluster on how to mitigate the risks of fire in these shelters. But otherwise, our partners have even developed more this approach to go through voucher for these 2 items. And then I have my colleague also, Sneha, wants to jump in this.
To add, and there was this other, maybe Sneha was going to mention this, that at a, let's say, plot level or site level, there is consideration that if there is heating through partners, that we dedicate one area for the vulnerable population, like pregnant babies. So the idea by ACF, correct? Yeah, to have a heating area. Heating points, yeah, at a site level, yeah.
And Sneha?
Yes, Sneha. Yeah.
Thanks, Marwa and Jehan. I know we are almost at the end of our time, but just to quickly come in on that point. Yeah, I think there's also just the fact that people in Gaza are very resourceful. And previously we had very severe restrictions on fuel, but now post-ceasefire fuel is coming in. So we are looking at, on one hand, the advocacy of heating systems so that we can actually bring in heaters. But then on the other hand, people also build these mud ovens and use as long as there is a source of fuel. So we're hoping that that helps this winter as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Sneha. So it is mud oven, but so it's with firewood, I can imagine. And as you say, it's very expensive, and so you have also this difficulty about the availability of timber.
Yeah, they have been using salvage timber. And besides that, I think, yeah, like I think with the mud ovens, I'm just mentioning that because I think in Gaza, we just see a lot of ingenuity, you know. They may still use the fuel in some way for the mud ovens, and then they also use oil tin cans, making cutouts in them for cooking. So I think our big concern actually around heating is more around fire risks as well. So we are working on messaging with site management on that. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
One tip, Pascal, just quickly about firewood and people using salvage fire for cooking or heating shelters. I faced this before, I don't remember, Nepal and the Pacific too, where actually some wood were distributed, but the timber was treated, but people were using some pieces of timber, treated timber, to heat their shelter in the house, which is very toxic. And I think that's maybe something you might already face there in Gaza.
Just to add on that, our recommendation for the timbers, we are not advising any treated timber. That's one of the things. But mostly like also from the pallets, wooden pallets, people have been using them. That's the most important source for them for wood. Over.
Yeah, maybe I have also a question. I think is as you said, Marwa, and I know Sneha has developed also, but it was more for the West Bank about cash. You say, yeah, if it's possible in Gaza, but do you think it will really be possible? I mean, okay, as we know, the size of the destruction, 80%, 90% of the cities, you know, so the banks, and is there any service provider? And yeah, do you think it could be a possibility? And
so yes, according to the cash working group, so after the ceasefire, the cash out fees is now 30%. And the prices between the south and north of Gaza are coming closer. And there are some availability of items. So for example, clothing is low availability because they are tracking the market on what is available. So we also trying to add a list from our site to their list so that they monitor it. And then we advise on our partners if which item can be through cash, because this is really, really important. But yes, possible, but a very limited and very and needs a lot of monitoring on that. But now since ceasefire, things as better, yani, let's say, yeah.
Okay, so we all hope that it will be better. Let me just, okay, we already passed the time. Is there, totally agree, okay. I was checking if there's a question, Matt, please check. Okay, we already,
do you want to, do you want to answer Carolina's question?
Yes, I was looking, okay.
About overlapping with further tech COP.
Yeah, okay. Based on experience, it is also an example to show in discussion with cash COP, the importance of rental HLP discussion. Same as linking the winterization. I will have also to leave my room, sorry. 1 minute. Let me check.
I mean, I can briefly say something about the question or the
Please
comment.
go ahead, because
I think it's true, yes. I mean, for this webinar and probably the future webinar, but it's true for this group and the other groups. There is definitely overlapping because everything is connected. So for us, we're trying to focus as much as possible on NFI and emergency temporary shelters. But obviously, when you talk about a project or an emergency response, you don't only focus only on technical specification of every items. Obviously, we talk about the overall project and activities, but we're trying our best to connect with other groups and make sure our group is focused on NFI and emergency shelter too.
Yeah. Sorry. Exactly. Yes, so we are really trying all this technical COP. It's very linked, and as you said, there is the cash and market working group. So you can we share the link on the chat. Carolina, over to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
It will be more clear. You are muted, Carolina.
Sorry, my connection is breaking. So no, just to confirm, it's just maybe considering to any of the COPs for more to be more involved, just to understand if there's, because of course the thematics are linked, and it's this, I'm not questioning all the activities. These should involve everything, environment and all the contexts are different, but just to understand if there's, for example, one meeting where you have all the COPs together and then there's sharing some, like, just to maybe understand the purpose of this, to make sure that it's not like duplication of the efforts, if you want to receive some results which can be then shared and really reinforce some of the responses.
Yeah, no, so there is a coordination, as we say, technical, is very broad, everything is technical, even cash is technical environment. So it's why we have splitted, and so I'm trying also as the main technical COP moderator also to coordinate with the other COP on the environment and the early recovery and the cash. And as you said, so now we did there's a webinar. It's through the first presentation was maybe more linked to hosting assistance and cash. It was also speaking about emergency shelter and FI. Everything is linked. So we are trying really to test this technical COP, and then the idea it will be, as you ask, to organize a webinar, or it will be internally with the committee of all the technical subgroup to coordinate together and also to see the interconnection. And maybe we will reduce and merge more thematic. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
Yes, great. I'm happy that there is also thinking of this to the one who's are basically on all the COPs now, or on to know all the subjects which are discussed, to see when the connection should be made quicker or something. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I'm also following the other COP of the partners, because many partners like CRS have their own committee of practice. So I'm also checking also with all the COP, to not reinvent the wheel, and to see what the other partners are. We are all partners. The Global Shelter Cluster is not an organization. We are all on the same level. So that's the idea. So we already passed the time, so we could discuss more also with for Gaza. Also, sorry for Ukraine, for Mykola, there was no question. We just check if there is more question, and we do a follow-up also to you, Mamoni, for Ethiopia. So I just would like again to thanks all the presenter for the time you have contributed. We know you are on the field, you are busy implementing your project and your challenge. I'm taking the opportunity also because we have Ukraine and shelters. So I also conduct a survey that was an idea to create a pool of experts, all volunteers. Sorry, we know the situation in the humanitarian world is not the best to find job, but we create this pool of experts as a voluntary base in case, like, for instance, we have the shelter cluster in Ukraine, where the one in Gaza. If sometimes they need some advice, they are in the country, so we will not duplicate the system. So the coordination is the shelter cluster, but we can have this pool. So thank you. I will share also with both shelter cluster. We have the result. We have more than 60 people interested to support or Ukraine or Gaza or both or any response. So I will also share that just to inform the community to the team in country, and I have some idea of the profile of the people who apply, and upon their request, they could contact me, and then I could invite some of the members. So thank you very much. I will not pass the last slide. I will just pass it very quick because we will continue try to do another webinar in 2026. We'll coordinate with all the groups. You will see also all these links will be shared. You will find it will be published on the technical page. I already recommend you to register to create an account to do a global shelter cluster. Then you will have information about the technical toolkit, all the resources available. So thank you very much for your time. And we will publish the recording also on the site and the PowerPoint presentation. So wish you all the best. Thank you very much for all, and have a nice day, morning, evening, wherever you are. And take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.